We're here again, but for the penultimate time of this tournament. How depressing is that? It's dark, it's cold. Sani's got cholera. He hasn't got cholera. Apologies to anyone who's had cholera, by the way. Anyway,
Right.
yes, we're here again. How are we all doing, gentlemen, on this very brisk and cold December evening on the eve of the World Cup final? Hazik, how you doing, mate? You're wearing a Norwich shirt, which doesn't really fit in. You're probably depressed because you just got slapped by Blackburn.
Yeah, yeah. I've got not one but two.
Bloody hell. There's one what enough.
Yeah, this one's for the first Blackburn goal, and this one's for the second.
Love that.
Yeah, I'm great. I'm really great. It was a great watch.
There's pain in that voice.
Yeah.
Sam, seeing as you're the other guy that's not wearing an international shirt, and we're gonna keep it consistent by going to the club shirts. How are you, mate, with Torres on the back of that one?
Yeah, I got
I
Torres on
think
the back of this one. It's
no
it's
money
an
mates,
oldish
mate.
one. No
Oh,
money
of course
mates
he was.
today. I thought, a good looking guy, blonde guy, long hair. I don't know where he got that from. But yeah, I'm feeling good, mate. It's basically the closest thing that I've got to an Argentina shirt. So they're the team that I think will probably do it tomorrow. But we'll get into that
There
in
we
more
go.
detail later on.
And Sani, you're plagued me. I might come and paint a big X on your door just to make sure that everyone knows that the Black Death has struck this household.
Yeah, no, I'm dying. It seems like I might have got what half the French squad have got. This mysterious virus that's been going around. I don't know if they somehow transmitted it all the way to Birmingham. But listen, I'm dying. It doesn't matter because we all know what's going down tomorrow, which we'll get into in about 5-10 minutes. But listen, I'm looking forward to it. So let's bring it on, baby.
Yeah, before we get to the juicy stuff of the final, discuss the third place playoff that actually took place earlier today, with Croatia taking that podium spot. I don't know why I have that meme in my head of Luka Modric like biting the medal, spraying the champagne, dropping the bird off at everyone, and then you just got either Messi or Kylian Mbappe on the other side of that. But yeah, don't know why that's a tangent, but there you go. But yeah, I mean, it was a. I didn't actually catch the game itself, so I'm a very ill-prepared man right now. But obviously, yeah, took the win. I heard Orsic scored an absolute banger, but I have yet to see it. Sani, you had a lot to say about this game on your Instagram story, so I'll start with you, mate. Give us a lowdown of what you saw and what you thought.
Yeah, no, it was a really insane game considering everyone talks about how, the third place playoff tends to be one of those games which is quite boring and there doesn't need to be this sort of game in the World Cup. It was a great game, especially the first 10, 15 minutes. It was so frantic. So we know Croatia went through, scored the first goal with Guardiola. Then Morocco came straight back, and then it was pretty end to end. And then, like you said, Orsic, amazing goal. Although the second half wasn't as frantic as the first one, it was still quite spicy. You could see the tackles flying in. It got a bit heated as well, to be fair. I don't know why. It was only a third place match, but clearly it goes to show that this game clearly has a lot of weight. But listen, it was a great game just to kind of, it was like a starter. When you have your main course, which is tomorrow, it's nice to have a little starter. You bring your canapes out, whatever you want to do, all of that sort of stuff. And that's exactly what this game was. And you know what? 2-1 Croatia, worthy winners. And a great World Cup for Morocco, great World Cup for Croatia as well. And it's a nice goodbye for the likes of Perisic and Modric.
Yeah, you mentioned Perisic there. I just want to bring up a little stat that I saw earlier as well. Only Leo Messi has been involved in more FIFA World Cup goals than even Perisic across the last three tournaments. That's an absolutely fantastic stat for that man. I mean, it's an insanely good stat just to show how incredibly important he's been for his country. And one player they're really going to struggle to probably replace him. And we discussed Modric on the last episode and how they're really going to struggle to fill that gap. But Perisic is just as important, to be honest. I mean, you judging by that stat, you could possibly argue even further. But what were your thoughts on Perisic, Sam?
Yeah, he's a quality player, and it's interesting because what he does for Croatia doesn't seem to translate from his Spurs form. He's a different player almost when he's playing in a Croatia shirt. He's brilliant for them. Another solid game for him tonight, and it's an interesting one, the third place playoff, actually, because I don't want to be like the Roy Keane of the group. I've already complained about Brazil's dancing earlier in the tournament, but there is part of me that does sort of think, like, what is the point? But then I think when you see, like Sani mentioned, the tackles flying in and the passion shown by both teams, it is a big match for, I think, status. You don't want to end the competition with another loss, having already been knocked out. So I think it's nice to see, it's refreshing to see from both teams really going for it. And it was an entertaining game, to be honest. That Orsic goal, I know we've already touched on it, was fantastic. It caught me off guard, let alone the goalkeeper. So, yeah, interesting fixture, entertaining fixture, and all in all, a good watch.
Yeah, I mean, on the flip side, just to keep bringing in the stats, Vardyl became the youngest Croatian ever to score a World Cup tournament, aged 20 years and 328 days. Zeke, we've been talking about him a lot, minus his mugging off from Leo Messi in his last game, obviously against Argentina. What would you rate him in this tournament? I mean, I actually went out on a limb and I said I think he's been the best defender of this entire tournament that I've seen. What would your statements on Vardyl be?
Yeah, I think I'm actually sort of with you there. I don't know who else would be there instead of him other than him. I feel like it obviously helps the fact that he has made it all the way to the last three in the end, obviously. So it's sort of recency bias there a little bit. But the fact that he's only 20, I think, isn't he, is just ridiculous because he has it all. It's almost as if he's already been around for 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, and also he was unlucky, wasn't he? There was a penalty that wasn't given, which was a bit odd. But like a lot of the other VAR calls, it's a little bit strange. But I don't even know how he managed to be all the way up there. But he basically started it off and just carried on, which is awesome. I love that. But yeah, I mean, I think he's just signed a new contract with Leipzig. So I feel like it will be hard
much to Sam's misery
get out of there. But like even then, he'll still be young by the time that's over. So I think he's got a really bright future, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Vardyl, Sam, obviously he's been linked with your club Chelsea very, very strongly over the last little bit. I mean, if they were to pay, north of £60 million for him, I mean, is that something you'd be willing to accept? I mean, it's a big fee, obviously, for a defender, especially, but I mean, I guess it looks like it could be very money well spent if that were the case.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I remember this time last season it was all about Koundé and now it's all about Gvardiol. And I would, based off of these performances at the World Cup, especially, I would be happy to see him at Chelsea. I do think that one of the problem areas for us with an ageing Azpilicueta, obviously Thiago Silva as well, just a real problem in depth in centre-back. Obviously the departure of Rudiger as well was very heartfelt. Miss him. But I think for a figure of 60 million upwards, it almost doesn't feel like that much these days with the transfer fees that you see flying around for a 20-year-old as well. I think, based on sort of the idea that he would be with us for a long time and no other club would poach him, I think it's not a bad deal, to be fair. You just hope that the fee wouldn't loom over him and affect his performances, especially adjust into a new league as well. But, I mean, this is his first World Cup and he's absolutely smashed it. So based off that, I don't think that sort of the glitz and glam of the Premier League would be something to throw him off. It's worth a punt. It's worth a punt when we've got Azpilicueta still knocking about. No offense, he's a good guy, but
yeah, I've just checked here actually. During the negotiations as they were going on last, the fee actually rose up to an ending figure of 90 million euros, which is a mental amount of money. Yeah, I mean, Sonny, what do you think of that? 90 million euros for Vardyol.
I mean, realistically, what did Van Dijk go for? Something like 75, was it? Maguire went
for 70. I think he was 70. Maguire was 70. No, Maguire was 85, wasn't he?
They were obviously a lot more proven than Gvardiol, but when you're 20 years old and you're this good and you're only going to get better, the trajectory's going this way. I think it's a no-brainer. We all know Chelsea have Thiago Silva. Of course, he's a great servant of the club, but he can't go on forever. He can't just freeze his body like he's in that film. I can't remember what it's called. It's with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes. when he freezes his body and he goes in the future. But anyway,
yeah, I can't think of the name. It's escaping.
But anyway, the thing is, he's going to have to retire in the next couple of years, much to Sam's dismay. So if you sign someone like Guardiola, you've got the likes of Reece James there who can play in back three. You've got Fofana there as well. I think Chalobah does a job as well. You still got Koulibaly, who's going to probably end up being that new Thiago Silva figure in terms of that experienced centre back. I'd personally go for him, Guardiola. Probably not this season, like you said, because he signed the extension. But he's definitely someone that Chelsea could attract, and I think he would do well at Chelsea as well.
Yeah, I can see it being a move that's possible. I mean, I know Madrid have also been linked with him, but again, don't see where he fits in with the current back line, given that they've already got Alaba, Militao, and Rudiger in that area as well. So it's a bit of a cram job if you were to go for him. But yeah, he's definitely one of the standouts of the tournament. As have Morocco as well. I mean, we've discussed, the fact they've got the likes of Hakimi and those kinds of players in that team. Yassine Bonu, I also think, has had a fantastic tournament, probably one of the better keepers of this tournament. From that Morocco side, who stood out for you boys, respectively? I'll start with you, Sam.
Well, oddly enough, Ziyech was one of the ones that really stuck out for me. And one of the questions, without sort of wanting to nab your hosting role, that I wanted to sort of offer to the room is what do you think this means for Ziyech now coming back to Chelsea? Do you think that he almost has to start ahead of the likes of Mount and Sterling? Because I find it an interesting one. It sounds really weird to be the host. Hey, Hassan, we'll start with you.
I think it's hard to say, to be honest. Like his career's definitely stalled at Chelsea, to say the least. Looked like a star at Ajax, and has not quite kicked on since joining the Blues. So whether he wants to try and prove a point and take this form from the World Cup into that domestic level and try and basically win Graham Potter over, obviously new coach. It's not long been in. It's kind of like a new start. But personally, I think he needs a fresh start, a fresh move. I wouldn't be surprised to see him try and push for a move maybe in January or at least in the summer.
Yeah, I feel like I can sort of see it going that way as well, because especially with the performances it's put in, that's going to help with people wanting him. So
that's without considering Nkunku's just been signed as well.
Yeah, is that confirmed?
More or less confirmed. It's been given the here we go. Rat.
I think Ziyech. I think he's been one of the ones for me. Buffon as well, obviously, with seeing him a lot at Southampton, and to then do it on the biggest stage, that kind of took me by surprise. Hakimi's obviously a big name. And man like Bono as well, he's done very well. But yeah, I spoke about Amra, but I think the team in general, there's not one player that I think you can say it's because of him. Like maybe with Gareth Bale, you could say with him and Wales, you almost point at him and go, the reason why Wales have done so well is largely down to him. I think it is just the team unit. Whether that falls with the manager, whether that falls with them all as individuals, I can't think of. There's a central midfielder who we've spoken about on here before, who people compare it to like Kante. I wouldn't mind him at Chelsea, but his name escapes me. But there's too many to choose from, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, man. But that's pretty much it for the third place playoff, I think, boys. I think we've pretty much covered most of that. But then we'll go into the big elephant in the room that is the actual final. Crazy to think it's already arrived. It feels like the World Cup has gone on for an absolute age. But we are here. It's a very, very tasty clash in France and Argentina. Probably, one of the more heavyweight clashes that we could have seen. As much as we wanted potential others in the final as well. But hey ho, you can't get everything you want, I guess. But yeah, Sani, I could see is rearing to go and discuss this final. So I just want your general observations first on what you're expecting.
Okay, I'm expecting an absolute emotion, a cauldron of passion, a cacophony of noise. It's going to be probably the best World Cup final I think we'll see in a very long time. Because if we're being real, 2018 wasn't really that competitive. 2014, again, was very tense. That's how normally World Cup finals go. But I think this will be an absolute cracker. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, both teams are probably the best two sides in the World Cup. You can talk about how other sides could have been there and should have been there, but realistically, you've got to beat who's out in front of you, and these two sides have managed to navigate that. Obviously, we know with our thumbnail that you eloquently, created yourself. We've got Mbappe one side, Messi on the other. That's a great narrative. You've got, the baby GOAT versus the current GOAT for many. Well, at least for me and Zeke, we know that is the case. So there's so much going on. I can't wait. And all I'm going to say is when this final whistle blows, a lot of debates will have ended. That's all I'm going to say.
Depends on what the result is, my man. Zeke, seeing as you're obviously probably the more pro-Argentine here as well, give me your general observations of what you're expecting.
Yeah, I'd love to think that it will be a really exciting game, but I don't think it will be. I think a lot of these sort of matches are quite tense because of obviously what is at stake. But yeah, there is obviously a massive narrative here, and a lot of people do want it to swing one way, which I am obviously one of them. But I think it will be tight. I think because obviously now Giroud is out, they'll have to try and find a way to switch it up. But
is he definitely out, or is it just rumored? I haven't checked.
Yeah,
since.
So he's apparently a major doubt.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I think I saw that Benzema is coming back, or is he not?
I'm not sure about that one. That's a bit of a strange one because there's been all sorts of reports left, right, and centre. But the most recent one I've seen of 2 hours ago is he's a doubt, has knee pain, and that's why Deschamps tested today with Marcus Thuram on the far left and Mbappe down the middle, which is sure to be an interesting change. But I'm not sure how advantageous that is for France. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, I feel like if it is going to be like that, it would work. I do love Thuram as well, but I don't think he's at the standard that they need. So that will weaken them there. I'm not sure why they would do that and not go with Koeman on the left instead.
Yeah, that makes sense as well. Yeah,
but there are obviously options there, but they are more able to actually work around it than Argentina are. So Argentina have to hope that they don't get any sort of injuries in the match, or it could end up being curtains for them.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting situation. France have had a lot of sort of adversity through this tournament, I think, in general, especially with the way of player fitness. Sam, what are your general observations sort of heading into this mammoth clash?
I think it's interesting with sort of the injury or potential injury of Giroud and sort of the rejigging of the team. And in the words of Graham Souness, you've got to ask yourself, where's Paul Pogba in all of this? But he's not there. He's not there. He's at home. Probably.
I don't think he's actually even running right now. I saw a report earlier that he's not even back to running for Juve yet. So yeah, that's an interesting one. That's a completely different conversation anyway.
Sad times. He's so that's going to be interesting straight away. Similarly, with it's not similar. I don't know why I said that, but with Argentina, they've got better in every single game that they've played. So what you see quite often with teams like that is it comes to the final and everyone's sort of going, yeah, they got better. But then they just fall short of that hurdle. I agree with, I think it was Zeke, I think it was you that were saying that you don't think there's going to be a lot of goals in this. I mean, how many finals have we seen where you're expecting goals and glitz and glamour? The one that springs to mind off the top of my head, and sort of shoehorn this one in here as well, is when Chelsea won the Champions League against Man City. And you look at, which one was that? Oh, God. I lost count, mate. When we played Man City, and you look at Man City especially, all that attacking talent, and only one goal that wasn't for them. So, yeah, general observations are... France,
grim reading.
What are they going to do? Argentina, what are they going to do? So, yeah, it's all up for grabs. It's really difficult because I don't think you can point your finger and say this team is, I think I said this before on the last stream, that you can say that's the definite favourite. There's obviously a lot up for grabs, and a lot that factors into it. So I'm excited to see where it is. I'm sure we'll go through and give our predictions at some point, but there's a lot up for grabs and a lot of potential for the formula.
Yeah, I mean, just to zone in on this Giroud situation, because at the end of the day, it's a very prevalent matter and it's very sort of important matter as well for France because, he is an important figure in that side. What would you personally go about doing to sort of mend that attack to make it, remain effective? I mean, Sonny, I'll start with you on that one.
I think you definitely have to stick Mbappe down the middle. You can't play a Thuram or a Dembele down the middle. It makes no sense. I like the idea of playing Coman on the wing, but he hasn't really played that much, to be fair, this World Cup. He hasn't really done
surprisingly so, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Thuram's a lot more physical, I'd say, so that would probably give Argentina something to think about, especially Molina. But the problem is that Molina-Mbappe matchup is so good that it's going to be...
Yeah, I've been saying this to you like a lot. I feel like that is the matchup where they could have exploited, and it's now strange to see that it may not be the case.
Yeah, that's a big matchup that they might not be able to exploit. But also, it might work in a blessing for the French as well, because we all know if Mbappe is bombing up the pitch, especially on the left side, and he doesn't track back as much as other wingers would, and Theo Hernandez is also going to bomb up, that would obviously leave a lot of place for the likes of Messi to drift out to the right in his probably favoured position where he'll probably cut in, dictate the tempo from there. So it probably has worked in a poetic way for France's advantage as well. But I think what's key for France is, although Giroud might be out, the player that they definitely are hoping will be fit is Griezmann, because for me, he's been the best player in the tournament. He's been absolutely amazing, running things. He's been their best player. Now, if he was to be out, I think it would be curtains for the French. I believe he's that. So, yeah, Giroud out, it's big, and he does offer that presence, but it does mean that, especially with the Argentinians, they press quite aggressively at the start, and they do play a high-ish line as well. So if the French can play an attacking, especially front three, they could exploit that. But Giroud is very good. Like, he always gets, he got 2 against us. He always turns up in these, biggish games. Even if he might not get a goal, he will always be a presence, a nuisance. So it'll be a big miss, but I think France are able to cope without him, to be fair.
Yeah, Zeke, you've already mentioned Coman. Is there anything else that you'd, tweak in that front line to accommodate this potential gap?
Well, I would personally do Coman on the left and then Mbappe up front, but Thuram has also played a lot of games in that striker role. So I don't think we really need to worry about that too much. But it's just whether he's at the standard, because I don't know whether he is or not. So if you're looking for experience, then I would probably go for Coman on the left. But I think it all sort of depends on whether they want the strength of Thuram or having the pace. I'm not sure which one I would rather sort of go for against Argentina, because they've not got the. I don't think there's too much pace in that Argentina backline, so maybe pace would be the way to look at that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Speaking of that Argentina lineup, I mean, we've seen this, in a couple of games, especially I think it was against the Netherlands, where Scaloni sometimes goes formation for formation and does literally. I think he played 3 at the back against the Netherlands, and he hadn't done that all tournament to combat their wing backs, and which it did largely work, to be fair as well. So is that something you can see them doing in this game? Do you reckon that they'll do that, especially to combat Griezmann in the whole area?
Was that Sam or Sani?
Yeah.
Sani. Yeah, I said Sani.
Thought so. That's all right, I'm fine.
Sam's just waiting on the bench,
Donny van der Beek.
Yeah, oh, God damn it. I think... So you're saying, will Argentina play 3 at the back, basically?
No, do you think that he will completely tweak his... I mean, we've seen him do it before. Do you think he will completely tweak his lineup?
I think what he's going to do, he's going to put Enzo Fernandez on Griezmann. I think he's going to tell him to do a job on Griezmann, because you stop Griezmann, I think you stop this French side. He's so important, but the problem with Griezmann, he drifts so much that he's going to end up creating pockets of space for those attackers to create. I don't think he's going to do anything drastic. I think he's going to stick with the same team that played against Croatia. So Alvarez is going to be a nuisance up top. We've got players like Acuna to come. I don't know why I'm saying we, but Argentina have got players like Acuna.
We know why.
We just want Messi to win. That's the thing. That's why I say we. We want Messi. As football fans on this show, we want to see greatness, and Messi winning the World Cup is the personification of greatness. But anyway, going back to it, I think
Rattled rent-free.
putting Enzo on him is key. With the wingers, I think Koundé's been pretty solid, to be fair, for the French this whole World Cup.
Surprisingly so, considering he's out of position.
He
doesn't like that position.
Theo Hernandez is the person to attack. So if they can go down the right side, that'll be important. So Messi on Theo, I love it. And then, centre backs. I think it's going to be...
Yeah, this is the debate, isn't it? That's the debate. Is it going to be Upamecano or is it going to be Konate? I personally think Konate has to start this game. Looked formidable in that game that he played last. But, I think you probably agree as well. We've been saying all tournament that Upamecano is a bit of a car crash. But yeah, Sam, what's your... Yeah, no, Karen, sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I don't know if he's a centre-back that Sam would like to sign for Chelsea. I mean, I'll leave it to him, but I definitely think Konate over Upamecano for sure.
Was that Upamecano at Chelsea?
Yeah. Would you take him?
No,
I think you have been linked with him previously.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Especially, again, focusing or honing in on this World Cup in particular, the performance in his last game and against England as well. No, wait, what? Yeah, against England against England. So there you go. Got a bit rattled.
Rent-free.
Yeah, big time. He just was chaotic, and I mean, listen, I could talk about fouls that should have been, but we're not going to do that. Yeah, I wouldn't want to see him at Chelsea to sort of cut the crap.
Yeah, no, it's and Zeke, what do you think of the backline formation? Do you think it has to be Konate surely over good old Upamecano?
Yeah. I don't think Konate's made any mistakes, whereas Upamecano definitely has. I don't know why he's even in there really, because he's clearly not great. So I don't know why they would want to even sort of risk anything having him in the back line.
Yeah, it's definitely a scary proposition, to be fair, because he just, especially that England game, he seems so rash. But to put a positive light and to highlight someone that we were just discussing as our Griezmann, just checking over his stats here, he ranks in the entire tournament first for chances created, expected goals assisted, general assists, expected assists, and open play expected assists. So he's just been a complete cauldron of creativeness. I mean, Sonny, you've been saying you reckon that he's been the out and out player of the tournament completely. What is it that sort of impressed you so much about him through this tournament?
You know what's crazy? The fact that last World Cup he was that striker / wide forward that do a lot of stuff for the French. But this World Cup he's obviously dropped deep in that number 10 position. But he's not just being very good attacking wise. Like you can see, he puts a shift in. Like against Morocco, that's a dig deep, and he was making tackles, using his own box in vital positions, clearing the box, interceptions. I think he's done everything for the French, and the reason I'd say he's probably been the best player of the World Cup is he's doing a lot of things, and it's quite funny because we always talk about Messi, but these are the things that Messi would do, especially in his pulp. Now, I'm not saying Messi hasn't done this in the World Cup, at the moment, but he's done it in bursts, and I think he's had 2 games, especially against Croatia, of course, and against Australia, where he showed this, the old Messi person. But I think other parts in the World Cup, he's had his moments where, he's got his goal, he's got his assist, he's had his little moment of brilliance. But Griezmann, I think, has just been, in the whole game, he's been running the show for the French. Now, that's why I'd say he has. And, I mean, you mentioned the stats. I think for XA, I think it is. I think he's had the had the highest one since records began in 1966. So he's trumped Maradona in 86. He's trumped Cruyff in 74. There are no small players that he's ranking above in terms of these stats. Yeah. I'm not really the biggest fan of stats because I do think that you should just watch football, see how football is played out. Then you'll know who is a good player and who isn't. But those stats do validate the fact that he has been insane for the French. And if he doesn't have a good game, I don't think they'll do well. Because like I said, if Argentina put Enzo Fernandez on him, it's going to be one heck of a battle. And that's where I think the game will be won and lost.
Yeah, you mentioned this battle. And just to highlight one more Griezmann stat before I move on to this. He's registered 21 key passes alone. That's more than 7 entire teams, which is just absolutely balmy stat. But you mentioned that battle there of Enzo Fernandez on Griezmann. Do you not feel that if he's sort of dragging Enzo in and around everywhere, that midfield battle's going to get lost? for Argentina in that sense that might give them a slight numerical advantage to the French.
Potentially, but again, it depends who else plays in that midfield for the French. Now, if they play Tchouaméni and Fofana, I can't really see.
I think Rabiot should be back for this one.
Rabiot has to be back for the French for this because he provides a little bit more industrious kind of attacking potential, whereas I think Fofana, Tchouaméni is a bit too defensive for me, so there's not really as much creativity with that. Rabiot definitely needs to play. I mean, this is what I know. Sam mentioned Graham Souness and Pogba earlier in the stream, but this is where someone like Pogba would come in very handy for the French. He keeps hold of that ball. He's got something about him. But listen, we are where we are. Let's see what happens. But like I said, if Enzo does play well and he does a job on Griezmann, they won't need to worry about the overloads in the midfield because he'll end up supplying. He'll be stopping the supply to the forwards, and even that French midfield, they'll have to probably knock it longer or even play route one. So I don't think it'll be an issue. But if he doesn't do a good job, that's when it will be an issue. And then, then the plans will definitely have to change for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, where do you think the key battles are in this game for you?
I think midfield 100%, and sort of touching on what we have sort of already discussed anyway. Depending on where Mbappe plays, I think that's going to have such a strong factor. I think that both sides have sort of got a surprise element in terms of Argentina, how they set up in general, as we've already mentioned. The manager's obviously not afraid to spice things up if he feels it necessary. France with how they fill that potential void of Giroud, and I do think that. When we played France, England, we obviously had our plan to stop Mbappe. Now it feels like for Argentina, they have to have a plan A and a plan B on how to stop him and which players are going to pile in on him, which does leave gaps because one thing with Mbappe leading the line is he can sort of float left to right, which will drag the fullbacks inside, leaving space for, as we've already mentioned, the likes of Theo Hernandez or just those wide players in general to run in behind. So I think that's a very key area as well as the midfield. Griezmann, obviously you made a good point about whether he drags away the holding midfielder. Griezmann reminds me of Mason Mount if his output was good. Because, as we've mentioned, like going forward, he will try those passes. And pressing wise, they're both very similar. I do think they are very similar players, but Griezmann is just more cultured and more sort of precise with his end product. Not as good looking as Mace, but I think for me that the two main areas are based on sort of Griezmann in that midfield battle and Mbappe in that forward line as well. Obviously, you've got Messi for Argentina, who could pull anything out the bag when he sees fit. And Julian Alvarez as well, obviously, is a very tricky prospect for anyone to defend, let alone Upamecano or Koundé. So there's a lot of sort of key areas all up and down the pitch that could be exploited by any one player, and whoever that player is no doubt going to write his name into the headlines. Headlines.
The headlights.
Doing so well.
Yeah, you're absolutely flying with that analysis. It's a headlight. Oh well, it's better than what you said last week. Last session, I should say. Zeke, what's your key? Oh lordy lord. Zeke, what's your key battle here? Why has he done that?
I mean, Sam's already basically headlighted all of them. So there's not much I can really say there. Another one, obviously there is Messi and
why don't I do this?
Theo Hernandez. That one's quite a big one as well. But I feel like Sam's already listed off every player in the squad. So I don't know how much I can add there.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm surprised no one suggested a potential switch of formation for France in terms of going with wing backs instead of that classic four at the back and going, because we know they've got the depth to do so. They could easily play
switching it up for the final.
I can't see it. Thing. Yeah, because Deschamps we know is a very pragmatic manager in that sense, but I think it'd be an advantageous thing for them to do in terms of maybe switching to a three at the back and having Hernandez and Koundé as wing backs essentially. but then that does leave a lot of space, which you don't particularly want to against the likes of Messi and even Alvarez to a degree as well. I think he's been incredibly dangerous this tournament. Probably the ideal young player at this tournament thus far, to be honest. At least consistently. But yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one, and I think it's going to be a very, very tight game, and it's not going to be a lot given. They got two managers who do like to sit back. They're not two that like to sort of throw heavy blows early. But one thing I'm interested to see is how Argentina approach this, because we've seen through the tournament sometimes they are happy to see possession, much to Sani's blood pressure's detriment, because he looks like he's panicking at the very moments that it goes on. But I mean, do you think they'll do that in this game, or do you think they will push on the French and put them under pressure from the off?
Like you said, it's a final. It tends to be a tighter game than normal, but I think they're going to put it onto the French. I think the emotion they're going to be riding on, the occasion, everything that's on the line, I think it's going to get to them, and I think they're just going to absolutely go for it. We all know Argentinians have naturally had this like niggliness in them, whereby they have these fouls, this aggression. I think that will show, and I genuinely think that the French, especially in the first 20, 25 minutes, are going to really be under the pressure, and that will show people whether have they just been a bit lucky this tournament, the French, or are they just that team that they'll ride out these waves and then they'll just progress, and we'll see. But I genuinely think the first 25 minutes is key. I think the first goal is the most important. Like I keep saying it, but Argentina rely on the first goal so much, because as soon as they score that first goal, they become really organized. They don't really create that much chances in terms of keeping on the ball. They should literally just counter-attack every single time. So if they get the first goal, I'm going to think it's going to be even harder for the French to score. However, if the French score first, then I think the game's going to be very, very open, because Argentina are going to have to come out for it.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting point. I mean, Sammy, he mentions there, have France been lucky through this tournament, and that they have had some patchy performances, and they have had moments in games, or for large parts of games, where they have been essentially, the second best side. They were against England for large parts, and even in the semi-final as well. They were under the cosh for a considerable amount of time. Do you think that they can afford to do that against Argentina?
I don't think either side can afford to make any minor slip up, but obviously that's going to happen because you can't play a perfect 90 minutes without wanting to be sort of the misery guts again, the Roy Keane of the sort of group. Again, I know I've mentioned this, that neither of the two teams have struck me as being like amazing. Again, before the World Cup last year, I thought nailed on France are going to win it. And their performances in the tournament and throughout the tournament backed that up. Whereas both sides have shown vulnerability. So, whilst I know I agreed earlier and I said that it could not have a lot of goals, there is equally a possibility for there to be a lot of goals if there are a lot of mistakes. But yeah, I think it'll be a cagey affair. As I say, neither side can afford any slip-ups. But no doubt we will see some in some aspect, and just for the narrative as well, not because I love the guy. I do hope that it's not Messi, who does as sort of a Stevie G moment. That would be so gutting. Just as a football fan, it would be not for you, baby, but it would be gutting to have a Slippy G moment in his final probably Argentina appearance. I know he's retired a couple of times before, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is his final appearance for Argentina. So, well, we'll have to wait and see. That's a different conversation in itself.
Yeah, well, I mean, one will entertain for sure. But Zeke, yeah, what do you think? Do you think that the French are going to be, a bit more pragmatic in this one? Do you think they're going to sort of try and dominate the ball and push Argentina back? And we've seen that Argentina can be pushed back like that.
Yeah, I feel like Argentina are happy to not actually have it, and they are happy to just wait and then counter. So I feel like that might actually happen as well. But because obviously, like France are used to having a lot of the ball, I don't know whether that will be different in this match. But they're not, like, neither team really strikes you as that, like, I'm not sure what the word is, but like when you look at, say, Brazil, like you were looking at
Yeah,
them and you were like, wow, this is great. But with these two, it isn't really like that. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Um, it is quite a hard one to actually predict as well. I think in terms of the odds of who is going to win, I think France is just scraping past Argentina. I feel like it's 65-55 or something I saw in terms of who is most likely to actually win it.
there's a
But
Drake curse as well. We have a Drake curse on the line
Yeah.
now.
I didn't want to bring it
And
up.
it's a big thing, you know. It's a big thing. I don't know if there's anyone that's actually successfully broken the curse as of yet, that I can think of off the top of my head. But just sort of one final sort of discussion point, and it's something Stanley kind of mentioned previously, is about who scores first. So a statistic again into there for you boys. France had never lost a World Cup match when leading at half time, winning 25 times and drawing once. I can't find an exact figure for Argentina on that in the same respect, but who do you think it favours more, lads? Do you think it favours Argentina more to score first and then drop off, or do you think it's more important for the French to get that first blood? Sam, I'll come to you first.
Well, I think probably France. I think that they've got enough about them to hold off the Argentinians. I don't really sort of look at Argentina as necessarily a defensively sound team, especially compared to the sort of quality that the French have. I know we've sort of roasted Koundé and well, I have at the very least, and Upamecano. But I do think that they have got the ability to just sit tight and sort of tuck the wingers in and just park the bus. More so than the Argentinians have. So I would probably say, I mean, based off that stat as well, it's a hell of a stat, by the way. You've done your research. It's like me doing the
I
quiz
have.
again. But yeah, I think that's pretty damning sort of news if France do take the lead for the Argentinians. But as I said earlier, either side could sort of snatch that first goal. I don't necessarily think that it will be a case of whoever scores first wins it, but I think it will be very likely if France do score first that they do hang on and win.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, we saw it against the Netherlands. That, you know, Argentina, when they have gone into the lead, they can throw it away. They did, and you know, force themselves into a battle in extra time and all the way to a penalty shootout. You know, how concerning is that for you? You know, going in as a sort of favoured Argentina fan.
I don't think it's going to be an issue. The only reason I say that is because especially if Giroud's not fit, they don't really have like a big beefy striker up there who they can hit balls to, who can knock them down, sort of thing. I mean, they've got no Weghorst, they've got no Luke De Jong. Giroud, like I said, is probably going to be out. I don't think it'll be an issue. I genuinely think Argentina are going to win this game. They'll score the first goal, and I genuinely think they'll win 2-0. I'm being really confident with it. I genuinely think they'll win 2-0, and we'll see that shot we've all been looking for, Messi with the World Cup. It will be there, and you'll see me on tomorrow's stream with it as well, holding that famous trophy.
He literally will be. Zeke, what about you? What do you think in terms of who draws for first blood? You know, which one would you favour if it was to be the case either side?
I feel like if Argentina scored first, I don't know whether I would trust them to hold on. Whereas if it was the other way around, I think I actually would. But also Argentina, I would rate them. Like I would feel like as they are a very scrappy team and they will do some dirty things on the pitch, they are happy to just do that in order to try and equalise or try and get another goal. But yeah, I feel like if France score first, I think it's more likely that they will actually win the game. But I don't know whether I actually trust Argentina to score first and then actually hold on. But I don't know. It's hard because obviously I want Argentina to win it, but there's just something in the back of my head that it's like he's not actually going to get his World Cup, and I'm like, come on.
You know what's concerning? Zeke's been pretty spot on with his predictions thus far as well, which is omnious for Sani down there.
Don't say that.
Really
Don't
omnious.
say that. I'm already ill.
It's
You're
really
going to make me into a coma at this rate. Like, stop
You're going to push him over the edge. I mean, I'm going to have to go and check on him tomorrow if that happens. I'm actually have to go to his house, which is literally a road away from here, and just be like, is he okay? Is he alive? As he just pounced out his bedroom window in sheer depression. But yeah, I mean, it's time for the final big moment. Because of course, we don't have Sam's big super sexy quiz this week because Sani decided to flap it. He didn't want it. He didn't want the smoke. He's too scared. I had my blazer, my sunglasses, and my title belt ready. But yeah, I mean, this is it. The big prediction until it's all done. Until it's all said and done. This is it before the cage door is locked and those two gladiators score off. Talking about a boxing match, Jesus. I said cage door and I said boxing match. Good lord, that was a mix-up, wasn't it? But yeah, I mean, I'll start with you, Sani, seeing as you're the illest, and I'm feeling a bit sorry for you. So go on, give me your prediction, give me your scoreline, and who scores first?
2-0 Argentina. Messi on the score sheet. Will it be a pen? Probably.
Messi
and Alvarez. 2-0 Argentina. Vamos.
You think that's going to be in regulation time as well?
Yes. Porque Messi es el mejor jugador en el mundo, which basically means because Messi is the best player in the world. So, yeah.
Christ.
Thank you, Duolingo.
Sam, go on, roll it.
I'm going to go for France 1, Argentina 3. I think, right?
Brave.
I think that it is going to be Argentina score first. Probably Alvarez. What's his face? Bloody Mbappe, that's his name. He'll equalise. Yeah, I know. Around the 60th minute, Argentina will score, and it's going to be France bombing everyone forward, keeper up for a corner, and Emi Martinez is going to clutch that corner, launch it, and Messi is going to walk the ball into the net. Goodbye. And
very, very specific.
It is, but we will clip that if it goes well. So fingers crossed.
If that actually happens, that exact attack. Zeke, you were pessimistic about Argentina's chances. So go on, elaborate. Why?
I don't know whether I am. It's just like I've just got this thing in my head.
Like Dark Kermit sitting on your shoulders. Say it. Do it.
Maybe it is only just that Norwich have just lost. I'm feeling like everyone's going to lose. But no, right. So I think it will be 0-0. Okay.
Can't wait to watch that.
In regulation time or just?
Yeah. So in 90 minutes, 0-0.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm going to say Argentina are going to win 1-0. Just like
interesting.
A really scrappy goal that probably was offside, or there was like something dodgy in the build-up. And yeah, and whoever the referee is, should have been looking.
I'm not sure if they confirmed it yet. I'm not sure if they've actually confirmed it yet. If they will have confirmed it yet. We'll do some research afterwards. But yeah, okay, so you think it's going to go to extra time and then 1-0 late on. Interesting. Good shout. I also think it will go to extra time. I think it'll be 1-1 in regulation. I think Mbappe and Messi both get on the score sheet. I think it will drag all the way to pens to a very dramatic extra time. I think France will notch it on pens. Just got a feeling it's going to be drama all the way through. Heartbreak for Messi. That's what I'm thinking. I'm hoping Drake slapped a big dollar bet on that, which I've heard he has put a bet down on it. But yeah, I think I'm the only guy in the room who's gone for France. Rep them.
Yeah, interesting.
Vive la France. But yeah, I mean, we'll see this time tomorrow, maybe earlier. Who knows? If who's got it right? Who's actually nailed it on? But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be captivating. It's interesting. But I'm sure we'll all be watching. That's for sure, at least. Anyway, unless someone's gonna bail out with other priorities. But if you're doing that, what are you doing? Anyways, until then, any final thoughts, boys?
Just looking forward to it, but that's all from me. So I'd say, yeah, obviously it's a goodbye from me.
Oh no! Oh no! Cancelled! Someone take her with it.
I've just realised. No, that was bad. No, I've just realised that the Google Translate wasn't necessary and it painted a very different light. So can we end the
That was
stream?
real bad.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna make Sani give us a nice long goodbye.
Right. Thank you, everyone that has joined us on these lovely streams. Thank you for taking part in the quizzes. We've still got one more left tomorrow. And we all know what's happening tomorrow because we know that man, Lionel Andres Messi Cucini, is going to lift the World Cup and it's going to be the most beautiful shot of the last 20 years. So, yeah.
Zeke?
Yeah, I'll echo that. I've absolutely loved all of these streams. And also, yeah, the actual tournament has actually been pretty good. And, yeah, hopefully in the last match, we have a little bit of excitement. I don't know whether we will, but yeah, fingers crossed that tomorrow night the boy gets his World Cup and I can sleep well and we can all be absolutely certain that there is one GOAT and his name is Lionel. Yeah.
Mine was shit
Well,
compared to those.
Well, until then, and if any of Pele's entourage or relatives have been watching, we do apologise on
No,
Sam's
it's done with
behalf.
respect. It's done with respect.
we do apologise. Any offence caused.
No.
He's on release. Anyways, until then, ta-ra.
Bye.